guys! So we actually went to Japan for about 9 days earlier in July, and we went to Osaka for about 3 days before heading to Kyoto and Wazuka. So this travel log is actually a 3-part series starting from our trip to Osaka. So over in Osaka, we stayed close to the Namba station, and honestly, everything was a little too chaotic for us, having just come from the slow pace of Brisbane. We were so overwhelmed on the first night we arrived, and it definitely took us some time to find our balance again. The ambience of this cafe was quiet and inviting, just how we liked it, and the owner was extremely sweet, allowing us to film and video her beautiful space as she slowly prepared our order. Everything here is a true labor of love. From the carefree drawings on the wall to the effort she takes to make each drink and food. She takes great pride in preparing everything herself, and because she's the only one around, there is a wait time for each item, and it's clearly shared in the menu as well. We honestly didn't mind waiting at all, as we had no concrete plans for the day. We were all too happy to find our balance again through these quiet moments where we could slowly savor everything we ordered. We've grown to enjoy pancakes a lot, especially after our trip to Sydney where we had amazing buttermilk pancakes. These pancakes were thick and airy, and tasted so good with the savoury mix of maple syrup and butter. I guess you could find these pancakes everywhere in Japan, but there's something about slowly savouring something freshly made that just makes everything taste that much better. So if you have the chance to slow down in this busy city, you should definitely come by this spot. Did you really go to Japan if you didn't visit a Uniqlo? We went to the biggest one in Dotonbori and spent almost an hour there because they just had so many levels to explore. After walking around for a bit, I ended up with a couple of items, and he surprisingly left empty-handed instead. So since it was our first time in Japan and in Osaka itself, we decided to check out the iconic Rikomen at the Ebisu-bashi Bridge itself. Summer is supposed to be a lull period for travel in Japan, but it was actually still really packed when we were there. Definitely makes me wonder just how packed this city would be when the peak period comes around. We wandered into the narrow alleyways of Osaka for some dark soba that came highly recommended by my sisters who were in Japan just a few months before us. This little place is run by a mother and son duo who were very warm and welcoming despite the language barrier. This diner only has around 8 to 10 seats, which is pretty standard for many of the restaurants in the area. We arrived around 2 PM and waited for around half an hour before we got our seats. We both chose the cold soba because the weather was just mad, and it came with the flame-seared duck along with takikomi gohan, which is Japanese mixed rice. The soba had a great bite and the duck was done perfectly. A solid 10 out of 10 in our books. Cash still seems to be the main mode of payment for most of the places we visited, so we ended up with a lot of coins, which was perfect for some gashapon fun. I'm not the biggest fan of toys or figurines, so this little pouch was the best option for me out of all the machines. wandered around for a little more and found a popular takoyaki stall, so we decided to give it a try. The texture was not what we were expecting at all. It was a little soft and mushy on the inside, and honestly quite a challenge to eat comfortably while standing. After braving the crowds the entire day, we decided to just take away dinner from this Japanese curry joint, which was really packed when we arrived. I got the ebi while he went with the pork katsu. The staff were really nice and it was highly rated online, but after trying this, we both felt that it was really mediocre at best. On the second day of our trip, we actually went over to Kyoto, so this was when we returned to Osaka on the second last day. We were dying to have some legit tonkatsu, but most of the popular spots require a reservation, and we were just not having it. After looking around on Google Maps, he found a newly opened tonkatsu spot with rave reviews, so we immediately made a beeline over. There were a few branches with the same name, but this is a new one in this area, so there wasn't much of a queue when we arrived. The staff were all really young and energetic, which gave the restaurant a great vibe. He had the tonkatsu set with different cuts of the pork, while I had a set that comes with a standard tonkatsu with a side of grilled pork belly as well. We were half expecting the thick cut of the tonkatsu to be a little dry, but it was actually so tender and flavorful. It was a pretty quiet meal because we were all so focused on savouring everything. Highly recommend this spot if you don't want to have to plan your trip around reservations. I'm not really up to date with the latest trending Japanese skincare or makeup, so I was pretty lost when it came to shopping at drugstores. Thankfully, most of the stores have a shelf dedicated to their best sellers, which is great if you want to grab some to try. I bought some of the trending skincare and makeup to try and found it interesting that they seal your purchases in a bag like this when you opt for a tax refund. You're not actually supposed to open it until you leave the country, so if you're planning to buy your skincare here and use it right away, you might have to do away with getting a tax refund. After roaming around and grabbing a few snacks here and there, we found ourselves at an Izakaya for our last dinner before heading home the next day. We had been apprehensive about dining in such a small restaurant because we weren't sure if they had English menus. But the kind staff reassured us that we could order easily via a QR code, which had a translation option as well. We were so pleased with our time there. The vibe was great, the music was good, and so was the food. We had a potato salad, oden, some gyoza, and karaage to go along with our drinks. Time really slipped away while we were enjoying ourselves there, and while we wish we had been to more such places earlier, we know that we will definitely be back in the future. On our very last day, we were determined to enjoy our day to the fullest before heading to the airport later in the afternoon. We got up early and went straight to a cafe which had the best reviews for their French toast. I have been craving for French toast for a while now, and it has been difficult to find a good one in Brisbane that isn't overly sweet. We were seated on the first level, which was quaint and cozy. They have a second level as well, which is great for bigger groups. Their coffee was strong and smooth, and he chose to have quiche while I went straight for the French toast. The texture of their French toast was similar to that of a bread pudding. It was a little eggy, a little like a custard layer, which I loved so much. This was definitely worth the warm walk over. We escaped to the mall after because the heat was just unbearable. We found ourselves at a photo sticker machine and decided to have some fun with it. It was quite the challenge when it came to editing the images because it was all in Japanese and there was a countdown timer that just made me more anxious. After trying my hardest to make ourselves look normal, we figured that there's just absolutely no way to change it and that our eyes are just gonna be so huge and we'll look like aliens at the end of this. So yeah, here's our final picture. It's definitely a memorable one. For our final lunch in Japan, LT found yet another gem of a place at the very last minute, and we had our lunch at this nondescript corner restaurant that serves up piping hot bowls of udon. The broth was rich and flavorful, and the noodles had just the right texture to them. We stumbled across this bakery and cafe on our way back to our hotel, and since we had some time to spare, we stopped by to grab some shopan and a red bean sandwich as a pre-flight snack later. They also had their coffee place just opposite the bakery, so we stopped to have our last dose of Japan's coffee before heading off to the airport. We were honestly so sad to leave Japan. We enjoyed it even more than we expected. The great food, the vibe of each area, and the hospitality of its people really left us wanting to stay just a little longer. It was a short trip, but we'll definitely be back for sure. Stay tuned for our next 2 Japan vlogs. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye!